Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
In my association with Project Group, they definitely withheld information.
The whole fleet of them, look on the ASA. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Total Disclosure, hosted by yours truly, Ty Roberts. We're here tonight. We got a great show. CRISTINA Gomez is about to join us. She is a UFO and paranormal researcher, podcaster, and journalist. CRISTINA hosts a wonderful, wonderful podcast, which we will definitely talk to her about and her inspirations for. And what I really, really enjoy about what CRISTINA does, as I was telling her backstage, is she does reach a younger audience. And it's really crucial that instead of, and I always talk about this, instead of growing up learning that, or being taught the world is black and white, but learning there's so much more gray. And I think, what she does is very valuable to the community. And we just want to thank her and welcome her to Total Disclosure. So thank you, CRISTINA.
Hi there, Ty. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation, and I really appreciate the praise right at the beginning. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I've had on a lot of people ranging from experiencers to researchers, scientists, journalists, and it's just been a plethora. But you notice that a lot of the UFO researchers, they're looking for people to pick up their mantle, so to say. So it's really crucial that the next generation be informed on the past to enlighten them for the future.
I completely agree with you there, because those that have come before us, the researchers, the pioneers, they've put in so much work, and a lot of it goes unnoticed. And that's the disappointing part. But I think both of us are playing a big role just to get more people interested in this topic, just because there's so much to it. There's got to be at least one story, one case, one piece of information that will just spark your interest to where you think, I need to learn more about this. And then you begin to research these other people, these pioneers, and it's truly unbelievable. It's very exciting.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about your inspiration. I'm sure everyone who is going to listen to this in the future, is listening now, knows who you are. But what was the inspiration for starting this podcast? And there's few women in the field. So from that angle, I love to see it as well. And, you've grown a very large audience where, let's say, someone else wouldn't or couldn't.
So to start off with the inspiration, going back to my roots, it was the TV show The Twilight Zone. My dad and I were huge fans. We would watch it every single New Year's on the Sci-Fi Channel, where they'd play it for 48 hours. And we would attempt to stay up those full 48 hours. And maybe that's where my insomnia started. Thanks, Dad. But aside from that, just that show in particular it opened so many different doorways to the topic of the strange. And what's beautiful about that particular TV show is that the majority of the episodes are open-ended. Like, you don't really know how it ends because there is no ending to it. Your imagination continues as the episode ends. So that's something that I really enjoyed about it. That showed provided me an interest in the topic of the strange and the mysterious. Now, as for being on camera and providing my research and podcasting, I did not actually want to show my face. To be fair with you, when I first started, I was not the type to just be out in the open. I was very nervous. I grew up with a speech impediment and a stutter. This has helped me a lot to overcome that. But what I realized is if I wanted to speak to other experts in the field, researchers in the field, to get a better grasp of the topic, I had to interview them to their face, like kind of like what we're doing here. I
Right.
couldn't do it, with no face on. And that's what really got me interested and to do this, because originally my channel was just analyzing UFO footage and then stabilizing it,
So-
adding filters and all that stuff.
And probably putting your voice behind it, maybe here and there.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
And
think,
then go
I think
ahead.
that I really love those style videos. Even because I think that's somewhere good to start. It's somewhere I kind of I started the podcast first, but soon after discovered that there was also just different avenues you can take. So I think the avenue you took was just a little bit different, but we always end up, like you said, wanting to talk to the experts face to face.
That's right. And no, that's completely correct, because it's better than any email. It's better than watching a documentary, because you're able to ask your questions that you have just burning inside of you. And then it ended up doing so well. It got caught by KUNXDB, and then that one show turned into several different types of shows, including Mysteries with the History with Jimmy Church of Fada Black Radio, and Strangest News of the Week, where I cover anything that's bizarre that's happening in the news, have it be UFO sightings, paranormal sightings, definitely involve advancements in AI and robotics as well, and then space exploration. So it's been a really fun journey. I'm really happy to be where I am and to share this passion of just exploring things that we don't have a full grasp on. And my motto for at least for myself is, we might not have all the answers, but at the very least, we are seeking the questions. And when we have the right questions is when we're able to get more sufficient answers. So, and I know that you can probably resonate with that as well, Ty. It's just such a fun place to be here.
It really is. I'll tell you a little story. I left because people always ask me why I left, because I used to interview actors. I was very much in the Hollywood world, doing conventions, stuff like that. And I just not only lost my passion for doing the content, but there was so much toxicity in that community that I was a part of, that it was such I couldn't do it anymore. I just lost my mother, and that was a catalyst for why I do this show. Because I had my own experience when I was younger with a UFO, but the encounter I had with my mother on her deathbed was very much more of the paranormal variety. I mean, I watched what I think is her soul literally depart the room, because it looked like if you look down a long highway, like the heat rising, it was that, but like a ball, and it went out the window. And then when I looked back, she was gone. And it was just, it set me into like overdrive. And that's what brought me back to the field, because I've always been interested. I've always been the person who's asking the existential questions. But I was like, that's what I think I'm most passionate about is, the existential questions. So unraveling the mysteries of the universe, just like you. You've spoken to a lot of again, you do a show with Jimmy Church, who's arguably, the new, I would say the new, I wouldn't want to call him the new Art Bell, but almost, I would say. I mean, Jimmy Church is just such a cornerstone of this whole community. And what's it like to get to work with him and to behind that like creative process?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun to start off with. He's just a wealth of knowledge. He's been in the field for decades. He did used to work for Coast to Coast as well. Now
Yeah.
he fully does Fade to Black radio. And I can do all the research. I can read all the books. I can try to get my hands on everything. But a lot of the cases that we cover together, he's usually there when the story breaks. And he's following it as it's developing, that I just simply do not have knowledge or access to the way that he does. So he always brings an extra flair and a lot of personal stories as well that a simple book or just bringing out the mere information can't always provide. So I think the shows that we do together adds a very unique dynamic, in my opinion. But it's very fun to work with him every Thursday.
Yeah, I always look forward to those shows and listening to Jimmy. But again, the show is about you, so I want to learn a little bit more about you. So you've covered a lot, like you said. You do case dives, or case history, look into things. What can you at least share one of the most fascinating UFO encounters or stories that you've come across during your time researching? One that sticks out the most to you, and is not, the top 3 that everyone would say.
Oh my gosh, definitely. And for everyone that knows me knows what case I'm thinking of, because it's one of my favorites of all time. And that is the Colares, Brazil incident that took place back in 1977. Have you heard of it?
No. So, well,
Yes.
oh God, it sounds familiar, but
it's a popular case, but it's not as popular as Roswell or the Phoenix Lights.
right.
And I'll give you a brief summary of it, because I know a lot of people are familiar with it, but for those that aren't, I got you. And that particular case, it's this small fishing town in Colares, which is in Brazil. And what happened was that for 6 months, not just one day, not 2 days, 6 months long, every single day, they were terrorized by these craft in the sky, so much so that these beams of light were called by the locals called chupa chupa, or sucker sucker, because it was believed, you remember now, Ty? Because it was believed that these beams of light were taking blood from these people in that town. They would receive puncture wounds in the women in the chest area, for the men in the jugular area. And it got so significant that the mayor of this small town called the capital Brasilia, and he says, bring in your military officials, bring your tanks, your guns, all of your weapons, and protect my people. Instead, the military brought paper, pencils, pens, cameras, telescopes to observe the phenomenon. Right. And so it was classified as Operação Plato, and a lot of the paperwork, not all of it, was released in the early 2000s through FOIA. You are able to read the witness testimonies, get images, like the scans of the drawings by the military officials and some of the photos. But again, not all of it was released, only a portion of it. And one of the more significant pieces of that incident is that almost 20 years later, the captain of the Operation Saucer came forward to several UFO researchers in Brazil, and he reported his encounter to the UFO magazine right after he retired. And he shared his own personal experiences where he had a close encounter with an extraterrestrial that was speaking in a almost broken, robotic Portuguese accent. So all of these, it was just the way that I said it. Just imagine that in your mind. And